I have before me another guest for you. This is a lady who I'm guessing is from Scotland originally. We'll find out in a moment.
Yes.
Her name is Margaret, and she is something to do with holy socks. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm getting a Scottish accent, which I particularly am happy about. Are you originally from Scotland? Are you living in Scotland?
Originally from Scotland, yes. Originally the East Coast, but we've moved around a fair bit, as you do in life, and we're now settled in the southwest, Dumfries and Galloway, very near where Christianity was first brought to Scotland. I need to be careful with this because we do sell our socks on Iona, and most people will have heard of St. Columba and the island of Iona. A lot of people may well have been there, but Christianity actually came to Scotland via St. Ninian, and St. Ninian came to live in Whithorn, which is about 20 odd miles from here. So, I feel a great loyalty to St. Ninian. And in recent years, they've revived the Pilgrim Way from Glasgow Cathedral through Paisley Abbey, down the west coast through Ayrshire, and right down to Whithorn and the Isle of Whithorn. So I'm become very fond of this part of Scotland in the last few years since we've been here.
I can understand that. Right. So you've stayed in Scotland, you move around a bit in Scotland. Have you got some family with you as well?
I have a son and daughter. Daughter lives in Glasgow. The son lives up beside Loch Long, which if you ever see the new aircraft carrier coming back to Scotland, it sails up Loch Long, and it's quite a sight. So he's up there with his partner and his wee boy, and it's about a 3 and a bit hour drive, so not so handy.
No, but I have seen that aircraft carrier in Southampton docks. We did a little tour on the harbour, and yes, it is quite a shock when you realise it's not just a big boat. It's massive, isn't it?
It's a massive boat. Yeah, it's quite a sight.
Right. So holy socks, which is what we've come to talk about.
Yeah.
You were at Creation Resources exhibition, or one of your colleagues. I didn't meet you, but my operations manager did. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Clothing doesn't surprise me. There are lots of people making lots of different clothes. T-shirts for Christians, they are everywhere. It's almost like a thing. If you haven't got a Christian T-shirt, are you really, a churchgoer? But holy socks, where does that one come from?
Well, the end of last century now, isn't that an odd thing to say?
We feel old, don't we?
I was doing a course with what was then the Scottish Church's Open College, and it was a very clever course because you did a weekly course with your sort of local people, but 4 times a year you got to go away with we're about 30 odd of us for a weekend where you had more intensive study and what have you. And we were discussing one night what we called the Jesus Loves You T-shirt. And we must have been a bunch of reserved Scots, because we weren't very, there are such things. We weren't that keen on wearing it. And my memory of it is that someone was sitting wearing Wallace and Gromit socks. And I thought, what a good idea. Biblical socks. You're sitting there, you can adjust, the trousers so that you show your socks. And, as someone will say, what's that on your feet? We have socks which have sheep on one leg and goats on the other. Now, if you're sitting there, I know mismatched socks have become a bit of a thing, but, you're sitting there and you're looking at somebody and thinking, what on earth are they all about? So you say to them, what's that on your sock? And you can take it, it's a nice, gentle, humorous introduction to the Christian faith. And, the person wearing the socks can explain it, hopefully very gently, very kindly, and engage with the person. And I do get emails, and I do hear this does happen. So that was sort of part of the idea. And also, we hear all about, in the last 20, 30, almost 30 years, we now hear all about, it was a wonderful journey, and it was, I'm downhill and what have you. In those days, it wasn't so common. And I thought, that's a real illustration of you're walking with Jesus, you're walking with the Bible, with God, and what have you. I thought that's the other thing. And you can't have too many T-shirts, but you can never have too many socks. Because even in this house, I struggle sometimes to find a pair that match or a pair that don't match. And I thought, we were talking about this, and I said, oh, somebody must be doing it. So I thought, right, I'll be the clever one. I'll go back, and I don't know if you probably are just old enough to remember the start of home computers, when you had that line along the bottom of the screen.
Oh, I'm definitely old enough for that.
Right. Well, and you went and made a cup of tea while the line made its way slowly along the screen. Well, several cups of tea later, I had tried holy socks, biblical socks, Christian socks, spiritual socks, every kind of sock search that I could think of that, would bring up holy socks. And the only thing I found was, that traditional face of Jesus, the long hair, the thin face, what have you. Somebody was putting that in a sock, and I think God must have been turning my cogs already, because I thought, I'm not putting that on a sock. But I then looked up my husband, and he didn't get the Bible online in those days. Can you imagine it?
Yeah,
how far have we come? And I thought, right, I'll just type in. He'd given me a Bible Explorer, and I thought, I'll just type in feet, and I'll type in walking and foot and heel and toe, and and up came about 600 odd verses. And even once you'd taken out the foot on the mountain, the foot of the mountain, wonderful verses. And I thought, this is a bit more than a laugh. There is sort of something serious underpinning this. So I think we eventually became holy socks, faith on your feet. And I always think that the holy socks makes you laugh, and the faith on your feet makes you think. And provided I keep the two in tension, then it works. If you go too much to the laugh, it's silly. It loses something. And if you get too serious, it loses something again, because I have discovered that God has a wonderful sense of humor.
Doesn't he just?
And never misses a trick. So yes, humor, and if you can make someone laugh, you've kind of opened a door. And then we all know life is not easy sometimes. And if I can keep the two in tension, then it works, and it works well. So that was the beginning of it. As I say, we sold our first pair of socks in 2000, which seems quite ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So how many pairs of socks are you selling now? I mean, are you selling, are we talking about half a dozen a month, or are we talking about a proper factory business?
Well, our socks are made, they used to be made in the UK totally. But they're now designed in the UK. We still have some that have been made in the UK. But they're now designed in the UK and made in Turkey. the socks that we get now are made with yarn from Better Cotton Initiative, which means that the cotton producers get more for their product.
Similar to fair trade sort of idea.
Yeah, yeah. And they can also do the soft tops, which is important for a lot of people. They have a wonderful designer at the moment. And, you know, I mean, some of our designs are quite complicated. But she's great, and she loves the back and forward. You know, could you try this instead? And she'll come back and do it, and I'll say, oh, that doesn't really work. So we'll go back to the original, which is great fun. And yeah, you know, so we have quite a range. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, you talked about some of the journey. You were on a theological course of some sort. You had a group chat. You then saw socks and inspired. I love how God inspires us. Even, I mean, for myself, I get sometimes repulsed by things, and it leads to really good things. But if I didn't have that initial, oh, I don't like that, actually, I probably wouldn't want to take that first step towards something else. I've had that, so I definitely understand that. But is making socks, is this something you've had to learn literally on the job and the journey of your own journey? Or have you got some fabric history back there where manufacturing is something you get?
No.
Okay.
Not a bit. And no business experience either, which is, we've survived by the grace of God, not by my skills.
Amen.
You learn, but I suppose everybody learns, and you just, I remember, I thought when I started on this course that I was going to end up in ordained ministry. Let's put it like that. And that would have been a disaster. It just, I can't imagine how awful I would have been at it, and it just wouldn't. And I remember coming down, I really got inspired by the socks, and I was like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, do this and that, all sorts of stuff. And I remember coming down the stairs in where we lived then, and I thinking, but God, I thought you wanted me in the ministry, because my ideas of ministry were and I really felt God was giving me the choice. And I thought, well, I really want to do this, the socks. And I thought, if that's okay with you, God, I'll take the socks. So it ended, one of the funniest, talk about sense of humor. I kind of was, the start was kind of stuttering. Because originally I thought I'd like to do this with Christian Aid or something, and have the socks made in the Philippines under there. And somebody did help me towards that. But when the person I was supposed to be meeting, when she was in the UK, I didn't know until she'd gone back. So it didn't work. And then some friend said, look, my husband works with Scottish Enterprise. He'll get you a list of sock manufacturers in the UK. So this list arrived, and I thought, right, having thought about having them made abroad, I thought I'd like to get somebody in Scotland. So there were 3 Scottish ones. One was in care and maintenance, one was closed altogether, and the other imported their socks from China. So I thought, right, start at the top of this list. And it was quite thick. It's about 1.5 inches thick or something. And I looked down, come off the computer alphabetically. And I looked down, and there was the legend, Angel Hosiery Limited, Leicester. And I thought, you are having a laugh, God. Ricky closed down a number of years ago, but for a while we did have holy socks made by angels.
I love that.
I just thought, I haven't. But that's where we started, with holy socks made by angels. So I kind of took that as, okay, let's go this way.
I definitely get the inspiration thing. I love how God, We have in our mindset what we think it is that God asks us
Yeah.
to do. And then we say, why, God, aren't you getting this right? Because you told me to do this.
Exactly.
And God's saying, no. You've gone, let's come back a little bit. Actually, how about this instead? And yeah, I can understand that. But that's what we do as humans. We hear something or we feel something. So we kind of make steps 1 to 10. And God's saying, let's just do the first step. Let's just do one step. But I also love the other element that you said you didn't have any experience of business. And there's two things I think when God uses us as we are, either he uses the skills and resources that we've gained in normal life, and he helps us to adapt them into our situation.
Yes.
But the really special stuff, not better, but just special, different, is when God says, all right, you've got no knowledge, you're perfect because of your heart. And I've seen that in my own life. I've never set up a radio station before last year. We did it. I've got some knowledge of business. I've run a business in the past. I know how to do graphics and videos and speak on a radio. But I didn't know how to run a radio station. Actually, sometimes that's better in a way. It's certainly more special, because then you have to have that dependency upon God,
Yes.
which you may not feel that need to have if you know loads of stuff. For me personally, it's the difference between common sense and God's sense.
Yes.
And God doesn't use common sense much in Scripture. You look at King David. King David's like a little boy. Well, that's not right. That's not good. He should be mature, and So it's. I love how God redefines our own perception, and when we can go back to him and say, "But you said this." No, I didn't. Let's try this instead.
That's what you understood from it, but actually.
Exactly. And then Holy Socks was born, and I love that. So, how many designs have you got? I'm guessing that they change throughout the year. You keep some, bring some back. So, how many designs have you actually got at the moment?
I think we've got probably about 30 at the moment. Men's always sell better than women's.
It's an easy one for Dad's Day, isn't it?
Exactly. And I mean, it's the double laugh. It's a pair of socks, as you're expecting. Of course, we'll give you socks. But these are different. These are holy socks.
Excellent.
So it's the double laugh with that. But we could do with the men coming and buying socks for women. But yeah, it does. I'm actually expecting tomorrow 2 designs that we haven't had for a while, and we've kind of adapted. One is for how. No, that's the mountains. See, we have a design for the mountains with how beautiful on the feet how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news. And we have one with the hills. I will lift my eyes to the hills. And I did try to do both with the hill design, but then I thought that's not really fair because mountains are higher than hills, so we better have 2 designs. So we haven't had the hills for a while, but it's a very, very popular one, and that's actually arriving tomorrow.
Oh.
And the other one that's arriving tomorrow is the moon and stars, which is it's quite a special one because it has a wee figure on it which is pointing to the moon and the stars, and the figure was talk about God using what you're enthusiastic about. I always used to like motorsport. When I was 16, I wanted to be a rally driver. When I was 17, I wanted to be an engineer, and we actually ended up sponsoring a rally car crew with socks. And every round of the Scottish Championship, I would give them a different pair of socks, and I'd adapt the leaflet for them and what have you. And one of the mechanics who worked on the car, he loved his socks, and he'd always come up and say, "Oh, thank you, Margaret. Really like these socks." Anyway, he was 40 when he died of pancreatic cancer, and as a kind of tribute to him, and we have him in his little suit his mechanic suit, and a red cap, which I gave him as well, and he's pointing at the moon and stars. So that one's arriving tomorrow as well. We haven't had that for a while.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I've still got loads of ideas. One of my, see, I've got lots that I really enjoy. I mean, we have one which is the whirling wheels. You know, Ezekiel and his description of the angel with the wheels and the eyes and what have you. And I thought I'd really like to do that particularly with a rally crew. So we have one with a wheel on either side of each sock. So you have 4 wheels. And underneath one sock, you have a spare wheel. And you don't just get the socks with holy socks. You get a leaflet as well, and I write a story for the socks. So one of our first designs was Jonah and the whale, and I write a story from the whale's point of view. But the one with the wheels is about how much we use God as a spare wheel. When there is a problem, or we get a bit of a flat tire, we take God out of the boot. And we say, when we're done with the crisis, we stick God back in the boot. So I'm very fond of that one. Another one we have.
Have you got any with you?
I have, yeah.
Can you show us some?
Yeah, this is our nice and bright. This is right. So you got a wheel.
Red sock, spare wheel. I like that.
Red sock, spare wheel on there. But you also have this is a spare wheel. Oops, dropped it.
That's a very vibrant red as well.
It's a beautiful.
For people listening, it's a very good red sock.
And that's the spare wheel on the sole of that one.
Is that stitching of the image, or is that a transfer?
No, it's stitched into the sock.
Oh, great!
Good quality socks.
That'll last ages.
And we have this one here with the sparrows.
So it's a blue sock with a sparrow on it. If you're listening to this,
lots of sparrows, yeah.
That's sweet.
It's a nice one. What we've tried to do is we have ones which are obviously Christian.
Yeah.
But we have lots that are not obviously Christian. I mean, anybody could wear the wheels, but also anybody could wear the sparrows. Because I kind of, somebody might not be Christian, they'll be given a pair. And I think, I'm not wearing them. But one day that will be the only pair left in the drawer.
Of course it will.
Only clean pair you have left. And, it's fine. They won't worry about wearing them. But they'll have thoughts. I'm sure they'll have thoughts. What else? Yes, our Jonah and the Whale. We've had several versions of this. But this one, our current one, is a ship and rough sea and the adult size. But we don't make we make these in children's sizes as well, but they're not quite so. I don't give them such a rough sea.
So that's sort of a grey sock with a Viking boat, isn't it? Viking
sailboat. Yeah, well, the thing is, if you make the sail pure white, it doesn't really look very good on sock. No,
not visible.
So yeah, it looks a bit like a Viking boat, but they had storms as well. And Jonah is here. I will explain why he's all in yellow in a moment. But he's about to jump ship. So on the other sock, you have the whale. And the whale is...
Oh, I love that blue. That's a great blue colour of a whale.
Yeah, actually, when you put your foot in here, it's like you're putting the sock... The whale's all around the sock. So it's like when you're putting your foot in here, you're putting your foot into the whale's mouth.
I love that. I love the irony of that. That's good.
It's brilliant. But Jonah is yellow because we were back to talking about skills and what skills I had to learn. A my son was about 15, 16 at the time, and he had a friend who was a real computer whiz kid. And he showed me, sat very patiently with me for hours, showing me how to make the sock. Okay, the sock, but Jonah smaller than the sock. How to colour Jonah so that he was, not. I didn't make everything the same colour. And he spent ages with me on this. And he decided that when Jonah went into the whale's mouth, he should put on his oilskins and sou'wester. So, so in thanks and honour of Ross and his patience, I've left Jonah in his oilskins and sou'wester.
I love that.
It's why not? Why not?
If you're listening now, you need to watch the video later, and you get to see the socks that we've just been trying to describe. Not brilliantly described, but if you want to actually see them, then you need to watch the video later. Margaret, can you give us the website? Where can people come and find your socks? What's your website address?
The website address is holysocks.co.uk.
Fairly simple, holysocks.co.uk if you want to go and look at these socks. Margaret, thank you so much. Can you give me, as we finish, one story that you know of where the socks have made a positive transformation into someone's life?
Oh, gosh. Someone did phone me very early on and told me that they had just sat in their bedroom and wept over something I'd written.
Wow.
And I just thought, oh my goodness. And what do you say? You just pick up the phone. And in those days, it could have been anything. The numbers didn't come up or anything. It was just, but yeah, there's lots of stories and lots of stories that you can't share, and I don't know, because I send these out, or we sell in cathedral shops and church shops all over the UK, and you don't know where they're going. And it used to kind of annoy me to begin with, because I thought, I don't know if these are getting anywhere. Don't know what they're doing. But now, maybe it's because I have had enough feedback, to know that they are appreciated, and you get out at exhibitions and Christian Resources exhibitions and what have you, and you do get, the reaction, which is mostly positive. But I'm kind of quite content not to know. Because how can you? We see. But it's something. I think it's something worthwhile, and you don't know. It may not be an instant reaction. I'm a great one for the drip theory. I will put a drop of water in. Someone else will put a drop of water in, and eventually, it becomes something which somebody. It all gets to the stage where someone cannot resist God. There's been enough drips, and they're going to say, okay, now I give in. So I so much I don't know, but I just keep going.
There's a lovely image. It's a guy called Dutch Sheets, who's an American guy who writes about prayer. And he wrote, someone said, how does prayer work? When does God answer the prayer? And he came with this beautiful image, which I think sums up what you're saying and sums up prayer. And he said, imagine heaven, there's the floor, and the floor has got all these bowls, and they're all different sizes. Every time you pray, your tear is put in a bowl. And when the bowl is filled, God answers the prayer. And he said it was just an illustrative way of when is that prayer going to be answered? And I thought it was really helpful, because we don't know the size of the bowl. We don't know how many bowls are needed for prayer, So just keep praying. But I love the idea of every prayer is a tear added to a bowl, all the tears added together from everywhere get added into the bowl. When the bowl overflows, the prayer is answered. And I thought that was a really beautiful illustration of, we don't know what the difference is that we're going to make, but we might be that final one.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, I know from I always knew God was there. I did not know how much, how deep, how, and I'm still discovering, the depth you can go to with God. And it's interesting. To say the least.
Very much. Just give us your website one more time so people can know where to come to find you.
Yeah, it's Holy Socks. That's HOLYSOCKS.co.uk.
Margaret, thank you for showing us some of your socks and sharing some of your journey. I've been waiting for this a while. I was really excited by it because I love anything that can get people to think and to point them towards the beauty of Jesus Christ. Yeah. We can push and we can push, but actually just, we're ambassadors. We reflect Jesus if we get it right. And I love how you're doing that through the simplicity of something that probably we all have at least one pair of, through socks. So thank you for listening to that call and for what you're doing. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you.
Pure 24/7 radio is listener supported, which means we are free, online and always pure because of the generous support of our listeners. If you would like to contribute financially, please visit pure247radio.org. If you'd like to find out how we use your money, please visit the Our Cost section. Any donation of any size will help keep us on air and broadcasting for free. Thank you.